Halfway through the album is This Love? A soft glam rock ballad that once again deals with, well, love. In fact, this is probably the third song in a row within this album that literally has the word love in its title. That being said, the song isn't honestly bad either. The music itself has this classic 80s romantic atmosphere to it, combined with its obvious lyrics, and you'd have a potential theme song for a classic comedy romance film from that very decade, like say Dirty Dancing or what was another one, Footloose or something. In fact, there was a rumor for some time that the guitarist John Sykes and lead singer David Coverdale co-wrote this for Tina Turner to sing. But when David Geffen himself heard the demo of it, he recommended that they keep it for themselves. And apparently Coverdale himself had confirmed this at one point in an interview. So, listening to the song, while knowing that in mind, it does indeed sound like the kind of music that someone like Cher, Tina Turner, or Whitney Houston would sing to. Sure, it may not be all rock and metal compared to other Whitesnake albums, let alone other songs in this album, but honestly, it still sounds pretty sweet and fine as is. Plus, this too has another good guitar solo from Sykes. Is this love? Maybe so, maybe not, but one thing for sure, this is a good soft metal song. After that is Straight for the Heart, and You're to Blame. You give this song a bad name. I kid, of course. This does return to a more familiar glammy rock style we're likely used to with this album, complete with a fast-paced beat from the percussion of Ainsley Dunbar, giving it a sense of high energy and excitement. The lyrics themselves tell of Coverdale meeting a woman and eventually falling for her, of course. It's also somewhat implied in some of the verses that this woman has had other sexual relationships before, with the lines, "Everybody says you're front page news, laying it down all around the town and giving all the boys the blues." Perhaps this woman was a prostitute, and this may be a chance for both individuals to actually have true proper love, similar to the classic rom-com film Pretty Woman. Although if the line, "My heart is in your hand," is any indication, this woman might also happen to be a cardiologist. Another line I took note of is "Stand and deliver in the name of love." It kind of reminds me a bit of the Supreme song "Stop in the Name of Love." It might be a bit of a coincidence, but it's still interesting nonetheless. A song like this might either go straight for your heart, or drive you crazy and insane, perhaps both, or something else entirely. Whatever it may do for you, this is another fun and underrated 80s rock pop song that's worth checking out. Next is Don't Turn Away, another slightly softer track that balances both soft synths and hard guitars quite well in my opinion. Here Coverdale sings about having to deal with hardships, how dreams have turned to ashes and that the smiles have turned to tears. Well, clearly they should have at least had some kind of warranty in case their dreams ever got burnt down in the case of arson or some other kind of fire-related accident. But then he goes on to question how and what he's supposed to do when all he wants to do is just make love with this woman, telling her not to turn away before the night is over and gone. In a way, this feels like a natural continuation of Straight for the Heart, at least lyrically, where Coverdale tells and encourages this woman to keep up her spirit and press on, maintaining her persistence through even the darkest of moments and times. Halfway through the song, we of course get another guitar solo. This one's still just as good as the ones before, but this one does give me a bit of a post-Fish Marillion vibe, at least from the end of the 80s and early 90s period, specifically. And by the end, the drum beat paces up again, giving us further hope and certainty before we fade out things. I think some people can connect to this song in some way or another, especially those who have been through hard breakups and may wish to get another chance at love and life once more. Then we have Children of the Night, and what music they make. If you ever feel this album has been getting a bit too soft and glammy, then I hope this song will be enough to satisfy you, because this track kicks things back into gear with its high-speed guitar and drums, almost on par with Motorhead. Plus the lyrics this time aren't about any love or romance or any of that fluff, thankfully, but instead it seemed to be a brief and general insight into the nightlife, playing music and rocking to it long into the night. Although the line, "come on and get your fingers burnt," does seem a bit interestingly strange. Does it mean as in, get your fingers burnt from touching a stove? Or strumming a guitar so much? Although if that solo is any indication, it's probably the latter. Anyways, it's a good, energetic tune to listen to, especially if you're ever planning on going out at night with your friends and buds, driving down the street, going to a pub, or having some drinks. All that good stuff. I could easily hear this song playing like a chase or fight scene from like a late 80s or early 90s action flick. It's that awesome. Are you ready to rock? Because I sure am with a song like this. And of course, that brings us to the most well-known song of this album, Here I Go Again. Specifically the re-recording of it. Yes, the famous and popular Whitesnake song that most people have probably heard of is in fact a remake. Sorry to spoil it for you. Along with Crying in the Rain, this too was originally from the Saints and Sinners album. The original had a bit of a more bluesy vibe to it, with its intro being played with a church-sounding organ, which I always like. While this one is much more synthy in nature, if that makes any sense to you, while still having some rocking guitar sounds as well. And the funny thing is, there is also a third version of this track, also released as a single in '87, what's known as the radio mix. This one cuts off the whole intro entirely and just cuts straight to the chase, but it makes up with even more keyboards dominating the song overall. Now, whichever version of these three versions is the best and favourite is all up for personal tastes and opinions. I myself prefer the original over the later two, mostly because it has that organ, and I do love me some organs. The instruments, not the body parts. Although, I'd be dishonest if I say I don't enjoy the other two just as well either. Now, whichever of these two the album has also depends on what format or region you're getting it. The LP copy I own has the radio mix, or USA remix as it refers to, while most other versions, mainly CDs, would have the normal '87 one. So best to keep in mind what copy you're going for. I'll probably delve more into Saints and Sinners sometime later this year perhaps, but for now though, let's talk a bit about this version. Lyric-wise, it's pretty much the same as the original. A lonely man venturing into the unknown, promised by the songs of yesteryear, and just determined to carry on and just to search for answers, forever walking on down this lonely street of dreams. However, there's one tiny little change. A word. In the chorus, many of you would know the line of, "Like a drifter, I was born to walk alone." Well, in the original, it was, "Like a hobo, I was born to walk alone." Apparently, they altered it for this version, believing that some listeners could mistake it for homo. and it's kinda understandable why they do so. Plus, drifter does sound like a word you could take a tad more seriously than hobo. It just makes me think more of Chester A. Bum or stuff for some reason. In fact, where is that bum nowadays? And when's he ever gonna do his bum reviews again? Those have been hilarious. But jokes aside, this is a neat little redo of the original that doesn't necessarily take away from it, even if it's the more popular version of it there is. And so we end our album with You're Gonna Break My Heart Again. And something of an empowering note, as it entails a man in an uneasy and strained relationship. Knowing that look in the woman's face, he knows and says she's gonna break his heart again, implying that she's done this kind of thing before. The mentions of him having to pay the price and sacrificing it all seemed to be as if she kept gaslighting him, almost a borderline toxic relationship. But this time, the man chooses to make a stand and face the pain, living by the classic eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth philosophy. And the music definitely helps emphasizing such an emotional moment and feeling. The tone, mood, key, and just overall atmosphere of it, while still sounding just as rocking as ever. And honestly, this is a good enough song to close out on as well, especially since, much like with Looking Out for Love, this too was left out of the North American release. Just goes to show how Europe does almost everything better than America does, especially when Britain does it. And so, that was Whitesnake by Whitesnake, and it's actually kinda good. Sure, it may not be as pure metal as, say, Iron Maiden, or Judas Priest, or Motorhead, but it doesn't have to be. It's its own thing, and at least they had some good songs in it. A lot of the songs I like in it are pretty much metal enough to me, like with Bad Boys, Children of the Night, and Here I Go Again, among others. Some metal purists out there would probably deem this as not metal enough, but you know what? It doesn't have to be. Even as a metalhead myself, I'll still enjoy stuff like this as long as it sounds good. And it definitely does. I already mentioned some of the songs here, and I could mention some of the others and how much I like about them, as if I already haven't. But if you like those campy, glammy metal tracks that aren't entirely deep heavy metal, but still rocking enough that you can still enjoy it, give this album a try and maybe check out some of Whitesnake's albums as well. I know I probably will sometime soon. However, next time though, we cover another self-titled album. This time a debut from a classic punk rock band.